and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call a meeting to order. Thank you for all being here in attendance in person and also online. So as is my normal plan, I like to introduce everyone around the table. So if you're new to the audience or new at home, we have Brittany Garrett, our town clerk, John Paciotti, counselor, Stephanie Thibodeau, counselor and vice chair, Michelle Flowelling, our town manager, Adam Lorette, town counselor, Peter Lawrence, counselor and secretary, and myself, Matt Townsend, and council chair. The first order of business is always the public announcements, and details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Number one, the annual Household Hazardous Waste Day will take place Saturday, October 19th, 8 to 12, at the Winslow Public Works Garage. Residents of Fairfield must pre-register by calling or in person at the Fairfield Town Office to participate. The Lawrence Public Library comprehensive program details online and via LPL social media. The Fall Festival, magic show and workshop with Conjuring Carol, food, crafts, games, and more. Saturday, October 12th, 10 to 2. Main author Amy Safford, talk and book signing Wednesday, October 23rd at 3 o'clock with light refreshments. And the Haunted Stacks, we're putting the boo in books. Haunted Stacks will be after hours on October 30th and 31st from 5:30 to 8. Number two, the upcoming election information. Absentee ballot request forms for the November 5th, 2024 election are available at the town office. Absentee ballots are available at the town office and online. Register to vote. You can register to vote online by visiting the Secretary of State's website or in person at the town office. New voters must provide proof of residency and identification, and new voters to Fairfield must provide proof of residency. Second order of business, public hearings. There are none tonight. The third order of business, public comments, limit of 3 minutes. Members of the public may speak to the council or request opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or may email comments for council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. Do we have any submitted content, Britt?
You did receive an email from Al Dyer about West Street parking during school events. I can read that now. It says, I hope the council will address the parking on the school side of West Street during events at the school. Lights from oncoming cars, the narrow travel lane, and the bright lights from the field, watching for stupid people just walking out in the road from either side, or people just flinging their car doors open with no regard for traffic, create a very dangerous situation. Just as Larry was getting off the council, I brought this up to him. He actually took the time and drove through there during the game and agreed that this was a dangerous situation. I have 2 pickups, an F-250 and an F-350 dually Friday night, the night of homecoming, between the field lights, oncoming cars, and this guy walking with his kids side by side from the field down to almost mainly handrails coming home was terrible. Had I had my dually, I would have not been able to get through. It has been said in the past that people only park there when the lots are full. I can tell you with complete honesty that that is not the case. Saturday morning before the band event, the main lot was nearly empty and people were already parking on the street. Those are really considered prime spots. I'm not sure if an ambulance or a car could pass each other, or the fire truck and a car, especially when you throw in the emergency lights. I'm certain that the fire truck coming from a station onto West Street would not be able to make the turn. I feel this is a serious and dangerous issue. It was taught many years ago, never present a problem without a solution. While parking on the street needs to stop, or maybe create temporary detours and make West Street a one-way during the events. Thank you, Al Dyer.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer.
Yep.
I think there are valid safety concerns.
Unfortunately, that's been going on for
Years, yeah.
100 years.
Yeah. But, so there's still not a reason necessary to address it. And I think looking at options of things like one way during certain hours, maybe something we could look at. I'm not sure what the next step might be. Michelle?
So I can forward this off to a couple of different department heads, and maybe those folks we can all put our heads together and see if there's a potential for a solution, and bring that back to you in maybe another month or so.
Yeah.
Or, maybe
Yeah.
by your
No, it's
November
busy
meeting.
and-
I mean, if there's something that we can do that's immediate, we can do that, but we can see if there's anything specific with regards to your parking ordinance that we should look at.
That'd be great, Michelle. As it is just one of those events waiting to happen, and as soon as it does, we're like, well, why didn't we do something about that beforehand? I think it's good to keep moving. Thank you. So comments in person.
Good evening, I'm Robert Cezak. I live on Bunker Avenue. I'm the County Commissioner for Fairfield and Norwalk, and I'm speaking to item 24-143. I can speak now, or we can wait until that time comes if you want me to. I just wanted to report that we have discussed the issue of an ACO, Animal Control Officer. And actually, I've seen the letter that Chief Gould submitted to you, and we appreciate having that. We saw the letter from Norwalk Town Manager, Richard Labby, and LaBelle, excuse me. So we have discussed at our prior meeting last Wednesday about how to look at this issue. We do realize it is a serious, important issue. We did some investigations. We found that there are two models, one from Penobscot County and one from Hancock County. We don't know if those models will be sufficient, so we're going to be looking at a different modeling, which would be a full-time, or maybe 2 or 3 full-time, or we don't know exactly how it will work out. I think later on next week there'll be a meeting of some some people that come in and or party to this, and we'll go from there. But I hope that you will endorse approve this letter and send it to us. It'll be appreciated to have that official. And we are all ears and we're working on it. And if you have any questions, I can answer them now, or I can wait until you're actually discussing the item.
I think in my mind, we'll hold your minutes open, and we'll ask you a little bit later on. Be my thought when we get to that point.
Very good, thank you.
That'd be awesome. Thank you very much.
I have one other thing. Where Bunker Avenue meets Bridge Street, there's a big gap where they didn't pave. So I don't know if they're going to finish the paving or...
They started doing that today, actually. They got back to those approaches.
Okay.
Pike had to leave town for a bit. They've brought that equipment back. They just started today with doing those approaches again. They started on Main Street today. They should be working around to that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
People will be happy to know that. Thanks.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to reserve the right to speak?
On the seventh order of business, 1 and 2.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, nobody else, seeing none.
Any other comments? Very good, thank you. The fourth order of business, reports from staff and committees. Number 1, the town manager report.
All right.
Michelle, take it away.
So on September 26th, I attended the MMA Legislative Policy Committee meeting in Augusta. I'm now on their PFAS subcommittee. And in this morning, we did have a Zoom meeting where we focused our discussions actually on firefighting foam and potential legislation, so to potentially exempt fire departments that have actually released firefighting foam with PFAS in it in the course of treating a fire. So that was quite interesting today. And then September 30th, I attended a meeting at the Chinatown office with Councilors Lawrence, Lorette, and Thibodeau. That meeting was hosted by Delta, and topics of discussion were 1, company financial updates, 2, operational updates, and 3, impacts of Fairfield Benton leaving Delta coverage. I did ask the question about what the impacts would be if, say, Sydney and Oakland left Delta's coverage for other municipalities that we know are having conversations. It also was determined during that meeting that the town of Sydney was offered a 5% discount on their annual fee. We did bring that up for discussion. The next day, Delta did send an email that that discount would be offered to all other municipalities, so that by paying our annual amount in full instead of quarterly, we were able to save $8,097.50. So that check was cut on this warrant, and we'll be taking that $8,000 deduction, so that was a good thing. On October 1st, I attended the Economic Community Development meeting that Councillor Thibodeau will report on. October 2nd and 3rd, I was in Augusta for the MMA Annual Convention. Also on the 3rd that morning, I did attend the Mid-Maine Chambers Breakfast Series. Topics were concerning the up-and-coming legislative session and what folks are looking for that they think may come through that process. October 4th, I attended the ribbon cutting at Heavenly Spa and Cosmetic Inc., which is located on 79 Main Street. That was a good event. And for general updates and other projects, just so the council and everyone is aware, we have entered into an agreement with the University of Maine at Augusta, their Maine Cyber Range, and Waterville IT. We're partnering with them to investigate the town's cybersecurity. This project has actually been a year in the making, and it is at no cost to us. But the goal of the project is to develop cybersecurity awareness and training programs for our personnel. So they actually investigate all of our platforms to see where there may be some looseness in what we have there, and have actually already received some suggestions to some links that we had on our website that were potentially linked to spam, and have already had those links taken down and removed. Also, environmental safety professionals have been hired to do the asbestos inspection for 202 Main Street and 31 Lawrence Ave. It is anticipated that they will have the results of the inspection by the end of the month. The cost of that proposal was $1,900. And then the town office will be closed tomorrow at 2:30 for training for the town office staff, and all non-emergency departments will be closed next Monday, October 14th, in observance of Indigenous Peoples Day. And that's it for me.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? Nope. So, on committees, economic development?
Right. We met on the first Tuesday, and we had our workshop, and basically what we were looking at was the downtown area, and we haven't redefined any downtown area right now. We just looked at the strengths of the downtown, the weaknesses, the challenges, the threats, and the opportunities that we have. And all that information is going to be collated and presented to us at our next meeting, which will be December 3rd. We're not meeting next month, and that's because it's voting day. So the Economic Committee will meet again December 3rd, 3:30 in here.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Any questions for Stephanie? All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Nothing on buildings? Nope.
Nothing going to be there for a while, because until the council or agenda comes on agenda to decide something, so there'll never be any updates until then.
Thank you for the update. And then for mine, on the PFAS committee, we were meeting later this month, but I am actually interested in hearing your presentation, Michelle, so that might be something you'd like to hear at that committee meeting for your subcommittee that you just talked about. So that has some interesting information for us. Thank you.
I did, just so you know, I did ask, there was a gentleman online that was from DEP about the potential for whether or not we needed to create legislation or whether it needed to be a DEP policy to release the cost of services that they have provided to residents throughout the course of the entire state. Knowing that that was one of the PFAS committee's pieces that we were looking for, and I took that opportunity to suggest that then. So it seemed to be well received, and they were going to send it up the food chain.
Good. Thank you very much. So the fifth order of business now is the consent agenda. These items are considered routine and/or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 24-141, or the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting number 2024-18 held on September 25th, 2024. And item 24-142, or the Town Council hereby approves Treasurer's Warrant number 76 in the amount of $723,341.37, which includes, but is not limited to, the Central Maine ATV Club, Delta Ambulance, Kennebec Water District, and SAD 49 allocation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you very much. The sixth order of business, to take action on the following items as read by the council chair. Item 24-143, or the town council hereby approves the letter to Somerset County Commissioners regarding regionalizing ACO services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Expect so.
I thank Commissioner Sazak for coming and telling us what was going on at the meeting. I appreciate your effort, so.
You,
Questions? No, I just said any questions.
yeah. You have any other? Oh, Michelle?
Just one more thing to reiterate what Commissioner Sazak had said. I knew that the county had started looking at this the very next day after your council meeting, because, and also the county administrator has reached out about the committee to work on this process and that sort of piece. So again, this letter just supports the efforts that they're already doing there, and that's kind of how I tried to make sure we drafted it, so.
Would you like me to read the letter just so people
That's
at home
up to
can
you.
understand it?
Yep.
I'll read that real quick, like. So, dear County Commissioners, the Fairfield Town Council at their meeting on September 25th, 2024 was made aware of and discussed a letter being sent to the county commissioners by the town of Norridgewock concerning the possibilities of regionalizing the state of Maine's mandated services concerning animal control. The town council discussed this idea with Police Chief Gould, and based on his insight, we concur with Norridgewock's premise and request that this topic be investigated. Proving animal control services at the county level, it should be providing?
It should be providing.
At the county level has the potential to improve services in a cost-efficient manner for all of Somerset County's communities. We look forward to discussing this matter with you, and sincerely, the Fairfield Town Council. So I think it's also to be noted that this is just the exploration, and so there's a long way to go, but I think if you don't explore, you don't have any options. Any other thoughts, or? All right. So did we approve,
Yeah.
anything more? So all those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Item 24-144, or the town council hereby approves the transfer of defendant in REM number 1 and 2, namely the $320 or such amount ordered by the court, and one 2010 Ford F-150 pursuant to 15 MRSA 5824, paragraph C, 5826, I think that's paragraph 6, and Unified Criminal Court Docket number SOMCD CR 2023-00165, Police Department forfeiture.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? I see Chief Gould inching his way up. Thank you very much.
Yes. These are two pieces of property that we have in evidence that we have no way of disposing of. So when this occurs, the court will give us a court order turning the property over to us, and we can do with it what we wish, or the council can do with it what you wish. It will go into the drug fund, I believe. And the proceeds, we will probably put the truck up on the auction site to sell it to the highest bidder. I would assume the money would go into the drug fund. Whenever we seize drugs from somebody, we have to have those drugs tested at a state lab. That costs us a considerable amount of money, so the money that goes into that fund is what we utilize to pay those fees with.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just get you to do a friendly little amendment that
Yeah.
allows me to sign on your behalf? There's only one line in the document per signature, so.
Does anyone want to make the friendly amendment?
I will do that.
All right, thank you.
Second, yeah.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 5-0, thank you. So now moving on to the council workshop and other businesses, the seventh order of business. Number 1 is to discuss the Parks and Recreation survey results. Stephanie, I see you're really itching at it, so let's,
Well, we had 80, for the people out there, we had 82 people do the survey. I'm very, very pleased with that number. Again, the survey was done just to put out the feelers and begin an initial conversation. It was also for the Economic Committee to be able to use information from the survey in the grant writing process. So overall, I'm quite impressed with the sincerity of all the responses. The things that really jumped out to me is there's just, at first, I wanted to know how many people were going to be talking about taxes, because the survey came out at the same time as the tax bills came out, and I didn't think that was a good idea. And it looks like there were a couple people that were adamant about not having a Parks and Rec because our taxes are too high. That is a conversation that we're going to have down the road. We're not there yet. And I think that the way that the statistics, well, the spreadsheet, you guys can't see it, but the people from the Central Maine Growth Council listed all of the responses.
yeah.
They're here, so we can see them. And it was really, really nice to see. There's quite a diversity of opinion on what a Parks and Rec department should be or could be. And again, this is all opening up conversations that we're going to have. For me, there was a question there if you'd be willing to help on a Parks and Rec committee. 50% of the people said yes, and 50% of the people said no. So I was encouraged by that. So that means a lot. The number of responses, if I can find it, the people that were, let me find, here it is. We have, I'm looking for how many people did it. Where is it?
Whole, was it
Yeah.
82?
Yeah, there were 82 responses. 57.3% were female, 37.8% were male, 4.9% preferred not to say. So, again, that's good. Age-wise, what people are filling out the survey. From 18 to 24, it was a 1.2%. Ages 25 to 34, 17.1%. 35 to 44, 19.5%. 45 to age 54 was 24.4%. 55 to age 64 was 25.6%. 65 to 74 was 11%, and we had 75 and older at 1.2%. So the bulk of the people were actually 35 to 64. And to me, that's a good result. 86.6% of the people were land property owners in the town. 9.8% were renters, and 1.2% were non-resident property owners. So I think that as a council, and based on what we have here, it's time to start a conversation. The financial analysis of something like this can vary depending on what we see or what we would like to see for a structure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but this is going to go either as a referendum vote or an article for the town meeting in May. But we need, as a council, we need to have more discussion. I'd also like to know if there's any thing for the Economic Committee to take a look at for this. The information is going to depend on grants. I feel like the Economic Committee should have a say in the results as well. They should be looking at this. And again, we're not meeting until December. And so it wouldn't be for a couple months before we can come back with a response. But that's overall, I thought, a very positive outcome to the survey, and I'd like to thank everybody that did take it, and they took it seriously. So
Definitely.
I'm good, so.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
I would second your thoughts. I think there's at least time to have the discussion.
Yeah.
This may take a while, but that's why you start. And that's also, I do thank everybody for taking the survey. I mean, 82 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you actually think about it, actually that's pretty good results when you do a survey in a town. So that is good. I like to see that the fact that have the first part, how do you define the roles or responsibilities of the Park and Recreation Department, you have all those responses. So it really is it's a good working document to start from. So thank you. Questions, thoughts?
I'm just, like to see us explore this, but go to other communities like Clinton
Oh, sure.
and other places, see what they do, how they fund it, or is it nonprofit and things like that, and how they do it.
Sure. I think that'd be definitely a part of the
Yeah,
process.
we've already, on the Economic Committee, we already have received a couple scenarios. One was, I believe, from Clinton, and it was provided by the Central Maine Growth Council. And I can't remember where the other one was from. But, yeah, I think that's important to include in the discussion down the road. Yeah.
So thoughts on what that next step looks like? I know we're kind of approaching the end of the
I think
year.
that what we need to do is, as a council, put this as a discussion item for next week, the next time we meet, and really take a look at, is this a viable option for us? And think about what kind of a Parks and Rec department do we want? Because we could have one that, different scenarios. You just have a director that works with Public Works, but that director would also be looking at coordinating events, making sure the fields are up to par, that kind of thing. The other thing is we have a director and a co-director. And we bring people over from Public Works to help with the maintenance of the fields. And that becomes a department unto itself. Like Peter said, there's different options, yes. But what do you guys want? What do you see? We've got the people's opinion here.
We just got to make sure it's the residents too, the bang for the buck too, how much the cost too. We got to just determine too.
Right, you need to have all that taken care of, but right now, we don't know what we want. So we have, as a council, we need to have that conversation.
Right.
And maybe now is not the time to have a Parks and Rec department. That's on the table too. So,
We may decide that.
and we may decide that.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, next time we meet, if we could
Make that a,
have a good discussion on the results,
yep. That'd be good.
so.
Does everyone feel comfortable with that for the next time, or? Great.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would just make sure you keep in mind is that typically our operational budget for the following year, at least at the department head level, in the budget I submit to you, we usually try to submit that by just after the first of the year.
Right.
So that council meets to discuss that at the end of January and the budget committee in February. So there is,
So how would that?
just keep that in mind for your discussion next week. And and it may be that you find that it's a discussion that has to continue for even longer, and it's not the next fiscal year's budget.
Right.
But I just want you to keep that in mind, that we can't decide in December
No.
to come up with a
I don't-
viable solution to have it be
I
comprehensive.
was thinking in my head, it's the budgeting process is coming right upon us.
It really
amazingly.
is.
Yeah,
And so,
I don't
that's
see
one of
us
those-
having
yeah,
this ready for this
Yeah, I would
coming
think there'd
fiscal
be
year.
a 2-year process.
And as Counselor Thibodeau suggested, no matter what you put together, no matter how you put it together, if it does involve appropriations of funds, it does ultimately go to town meeting, whether the council does it as a referendum or just an open on-the-floor town meeting vote. But the people will, anytime you appropriate funds, has to go to town meeting vote anyway.
Very good. I know some people had actually reserved time. If anybody, you all set, Gary? Okay.
Yeah, for the general public, just so you know, the key findings on whether or not to have a Parks and Rec department. If the question said, do you support the creation of a Parks and Recreation Department through taxation? 41.5% said yes, 30.5% said no, and 28% was neutral. So that's my final say.
Thanks. I think it's good to start the process.
Yeah.
If you don't start, you never get there, so thanks. So the second part of the workshop would be to discuss agenda format, and I think that was brought apart a little bit by a little bit of, one of the things was talking about, I think, for executive sessions, and like, how do you vote afterwards? Some discussion on that. That's one in my head, that's what I'm hearing, but
Yep.
definitely go ahead and enlighten me.
But Adam also brought up, unfinished business.
Right.
Old business.
So old business.
So we can stay on top of things, looking at other other towns' agendas, other committees' agendas. They do typically do that. I think over the years, there's been a lot that just kind of falls through the wayside of not talking about it. I think the last meeting, you even made a comment about something we just keep kicking the can down the road and bring it back up. And it's an opportunity for us to not do that and just touch upon items that might need a little bit of a refresher every few meetings or not.
Yeah. And I think that's wise, and I know I'm just going to look right at him, but Al Dyer definitely has been bringing this to my attention for a while, and I think it's a good idea that we should have consistently. So I think it is just important to bring up, and I think for everyone's knowledge in the community to be able to say, okay, where does it stand on, X, Y, or Z project? And just so, and maybe there hasn't been anything done, and then, okay, we know at least, and then we can even ask why. And then a lot of times there's a good reason why, but then it helps have that discussion.
Yeah. The other thought I had was if the town manager could put like unfinished business in your report as to how progress is going, that at least it would be mentioned. And because a lot of times things like we had to wait 2 months to get the environmental study for the house on Lawrence Avenue. So I think that would be a valuable way of keeping us informed too. And it's part of the record.
So I think Michelle does a great job on a lot of keeping us informed as much as possible, and there's a lot going on. But what would work well for you, Michelle? What, you have some suggestions? I know it's we're presenting this idea, so I guess it's our responsibility, but I also don't want to throw something on you as another thing to do necessarily, but.
Neither one makes any difference from my reporting standpoint. So I just know that Adam had mentioned this at a couple of different meetings. This is the council's agenda. So if you want to add, and it has followed the same exact format since prior to my arrival. So if you want to add that on there, that is easily done. We just wanted you to have a conversation about where it was located within the agenda lineup and what was the expectation for that section, so that we were clear, so to make sure that that gets populated correctly as you go forward.
Thoughts?
I think that's a good idea. Also, too, it helps when we get to our final part, we don't keep bringing it up. Us councils keep bringing it up each time. We actually have a running list of what's going on. So we know, and the residents will know what's going on. And nothing will get slipped through the table, through the cracks, and get lost.
So would you like to have it as an order of business? Or would you like to have it as part of the town manager's report? I think actually an order of business would be better,
Okay.
but
Because I see on some agendas, old business.
Right.
Right,
So it should be on our agenda, as old business.
To me, that's, I think it makes sense.
yeah. I would put it before the sixth order of
I do
business.
too. I think it's wise.
After we vote on the minutes and the
Consent
warrant.
agenda.
Yeah. I think that would be a good place,
So number 5, yeah, so actually it would become the new 6th.
the new
So we have the
sixth.
6th, and the 6th order of business would be the new business.
Yeah.
The 7th order of business, or the 8th order of business now would be the council workshop.
Yeah,
So you're saying before the consent agenda?
No,
after.
After the consent agenda, but
So 6th,
But
the
before
6th
action
order of
items.
business would now be
But
old.
before
old
your
business.
action items.
Yeah.
6th order of business now will be old business. 7th order of
Yep.
business would be the action items. 8th order of business would be the council workshop. We need to,
and
The only
what
other-
do you
go
want
ahead.
listed in there? Like any project that we currently have that we're working on?
so I think that's a good question, because you could have a list of 20 items.
I was like, because we could spend all
Yeah,
day.
we could spend all day going over old
Just-
business.
So what are you specifically looking for? Or we can try it, do one, and then go from there.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
there's things that come up even like from our workshops, and we discuss, and I think there's probably a handful we could all answer right now, like, okay, where do we stand on the negotiations? Where do we stand on,
Yep. Okay.
whatever else?
I mean, it's also an opportunity to follow up on the other reason why we were talking about the executive sessions. An opportunity to place that on the next agenda for folks to hear how that vote went. Maybe not not any of the confidential information that we
Right.
went into executive session for, but if they don't read the last minutes, or give an opportunity to discuss what comes out of that.
Yeah, and that one drawback that we talked about was that if you don't vote that night, and you don't have a meeting until 2
Right.
weeks later, then that actually doesn't,
Well, I don't think we were necessarily leaving it old business to not vote on, just more
Okay.
so to recap.
okay, making sure that there were,
Unless there is an opportunity to wait. I don't think there's been anything we've had executive sessions for that could wait necessarily 2
right,
weeks,
that's
but
usually the case.
yeah.
But yeah, that's good to, I think, at least have it as being part of the, again, the discussion of the results of executive session. That'd be good.
we can make sure, too, we don't break the law, too.
It's always good.
Well, yeah, we're not.
Michelle
gonna-
won't let us do that.
I'm not going to let you do that.
She's good at that. I trust her. She's kept us on the straight and narrow.
Running out of power.
It's not me. That's Chad.
Plug your laptop in, Chad.
So, very good. Anything more on the agenda format? I see a question. So this is, again, so I will actually, this is my moment to take a moment. And so I've followed protocol before, and I get, there's back and forth on protocol following. And so in my head, I think it's best, so I'll lean on my other, I think it's actually nice to have open conversation as long as it doesn't go far, and the question is germane to the conversation. So if we have another question from the public and in the audience, and if it's timely and there's a reason for it, if you would want to welcome a conversation or welcome a question, then I am going to allow that. But, so, Mr. Nichols, you're looking like you have a question for us. So if you have a,
I just, on the agenda, I've always wondered about the public comment. And since it was on the agenda tonight, if it could be moved at the end. And the purpose of that is because a lot of times people are sitting here and we hear what the council has to say, but we're left here asking ourselves a whole bunch of questions. I would just ask that the council would consider that, that's all. Thank you.
thank you. So I've heard that question before, and so it's valid. But at the same time, a lot of it's actually meant for historically, again, is meant for having those conversations from the previous time and/or what's come up in the last 2 weeks or so before. And so it gives us a chance for people to comment at this point. And sometimes, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, the fact that some people are trying to make sure they get here and make a comment, and may not be able to stay till 10 o'clock at night. They have those public comments at the end of the session. Those are the comments I've heard. So that's one of the reasons that goes back and forth. So I'm just reporting. I'm not sure which way I feel, and you guys can all talk to me about that. But those are the things that I've heard of the reasons for and against public comments at the end of a session. Michelle.
So I know that this topic has come up before in the past, and the conversation where the council has typically landed is the fact that is remembering that a council meeting is for council business, and that, quite frankly, public comment doesn't even need to be allowed at a council meeting. And so that it is designed basically so that items don't come up through the public comment process that become agenda items, whereas we try to promote and advertise what it is we're going to be discussing. And that's why the piece was allowed, so that folks could reserve the right to speak. Doesn't mean you have to, but if you think you might have a comment on a topic, then you would reserve your right to speak on that, or certainly follow up with a counselor afterwards, which is why typically your items are discussion one meeting, action the next. It used to be the format of this council prior to my time that one meeting was completely workshop, and then the next meeting was nothing but action items. And it was, I would watch it on TV. It was the only one that was recorded. And it would literally be motion, second, vote, motion, second, vote. No discussion, no conversation, no nothing. And I think the way that the council has started approaching this in the last several years has actually been a lot more open to public participation, and allowing folks to be able to do that. But where you choose to put that item is up to you.
I feel like we've made some strides in that, getting the agenda posted online, so at least you have a few days' notice, hopefully up to a week's notice of what's going on in the agenda. I don't know that public comments moving it would be the best idea. I don't know. I know we loosely follow Robert's Rules of Order for certain things. I don't know if the reserving the time is one of those things. Personally, my opinion is the more we talk together as a community, the better our results are going to be. I think seventh order of business, for example, shouldn't just be a council workshop that you have to potentially reserve time. It's a formality. We had the incident we had a situation last meeting where somebody didn't reserve, wanted to speak up, and quite frankly, through the conversation we all had, until that point, didn't realize he wanted to ask a question or make a comment. So you don't know what you don't know. Personally, I'd like to see the seventh order of business an opportunity where we do, we talk about the survey results, and then we do turn it over to an opportunity for the public to ask a question or comment on something. We're not acting on it. We're just having a discussion. And I don't think it's unhealthy to have a discussion as a council and community together.
Sure, and that's valid. To have that conversation. It also gets to be whether you get the council work done. If it turns into too much of a discussion at some point, we need to eventually have our discussion here. So it is this is where we'll talk. So this is the council meeting. So we need to get our work done. But I do want to have public conversation and a lot of public input. And to me, I'd prefer not necessarily even reserving the right on that. And I'd like to ask questions, but sometimes when you also, it depends on your size of your meeting. And that's what the problem. You have a meeting with 2 people in attendance and one person asks one question. You're like, hey, what's it going to hurt? And you have a meeting with 70 people and each person wants to have 3 to 5 minutes speaking, and that turns in why we should have a hearing more so than a council workshop. So,
and in theory, everybody could raise their hand and say, I want to reserve, and then turn it back. So I think it comes down to semantics. And
but to me, that's the point where you can say, okay, this sounds like there's more to discuss here, so maybe we should make a formal item and actually turn it into a hearing at a future meeting rather than a workshop, if we're trying to get workshop items done. Just thoughts.
Well, And that's the other reason why, your email is public, your contact information is public, so that folks can still reach out to council members in between meetings before a vote comes up and be able to have those conversations. And if you as a councilor ever wanted to, hold a time where you knew that you were going to be available to the public in a specific place, whether it be here at the community center or, sit at the town office and folks can come in and talk to you, that's always an option as well. I think the other side of that too is, you oftentimes have various members of town staff that have already been here all day that are waiting to talk to you and have that conversation about an item as to whether or not you're going to go forward and vote on that at your next meeting. I know that has always come up in the past too, about being mindful of all of those pieces, because you very well could have a conversation that starts and could take 2.5 hours because everybody wants to speak on it, which is great and it's wonderful, but is your council meeting the appropriate place for that, or do you take that topic and know you create a separate event for it, which you can easily always do? No, but just things to keep in mind.
Any other input?
No?
Thoughts? So yeah, I think the more conversation you have is better, but then how do you make sure that we have it in a somewhat organized fashion for us? So that's important. So anything so I think you want to have some results from this. So we've changed the agenda format, sounds like, or do you feel good about that?
I'm good.
Okay. And then submitting old business items. How do you want it? What items would you like to have on the old business? Or is that something we can submit to Michelle before the next meeting? There are things that you would like to have and see there.
Well, I did make a list of all the priorities because Peter had brought up, we need to have priorities. And so I took the time and I aligned it, and we can talk about this next time if you want. But I aligned it with the comprehensive plan and the things that were being discussed. And I also included the goals for the Economic and Community Development Committee, because we function as an advisory group to the council. And our goal, the Economic Committee, basically, our goals, we're working on them. Some have been accomplished, but there were 4 things that came up. Mill Island Redevelopment Plan, Phase 1, and that's working with the trails. The Downtown Reassessment Plan, which is currently, we're just beginning this process. Improved town signage, which is, we've worked on that, and that should be coming to fruition within the next few months. And we've been working on updating the town business directory, and that's at the point now where it's being done in-house at the town office. And those were what we talked about. Then it came time for the initiatives for the council. And since the beginning of the year, there's been the building assessment, the Good House and the Elliott House, the Yellow House on Main Street, the town farm, redevelopment of Route 201, the creation of a Parks and Rec department, Fairfield's extension, we're still waiting for the environmental study on that one, the PFAS committee, the EMS transport service situation, which would also included the fire department audit, which was done. And where we are currently is continuing to gather information on transportation, EMS transport, and that's still a hot topic of discussion. And then we also have talked about social media updating, and I think we've done some updates on our website, but it's still in the process.
We still need a new website.
Right,
That
so-
Yeah.
absolutely needs to happen. Well, I mean, we've been mixing some things up and trying some different formats of posting different things, but we
Yeah.
still need a new website.
Right, and with the updating of the community center, and we've received a grant. Now it's just a matter of getting the RFPs out and buying the materials. So That's, for this year,
Yeah.
these are what we've been talking about.
Right, I was just writing down before you started to talk, the community center, give that update, because I know that keeps on rolling along. The ambulance, the town farm, which came up, Parks and Rec, a website, which we've mentioned before. Those are some of the things that I know we're trying to work on. We just got the environmental reviews for the Good House and the Yellow House. There's also, I think, also for the fire department, getting that work done as well. So this is all those things, so that we can have an update on those. And I know Michelle's working very hard, and there's also shorthanded. Yeah. But so actually, and I know the town office is working very hard and shorthanded, and there's only so many hours in the day, and so that is a factor that's considered. And I think that's really important that everybody knows. But I think to have those items, maybe there's nothing done on them, right? So, but it's still having it listed, and so you can't get to everything, but at least we have it, and we can have that update. And if there hasn't been anything done, to understand why and maybe when the next update will happen. I think that's good. Any inputs? None. All right. Well, at least we have a order of business added, and I think that'll really help. So, looking, our final part is to discuss other council business. Councilor Paciotti.
I'm good.
All right. Councilor Thibodeau.
I have a list.
All right.
And the first thing is I have to apologize to people because I was telling some people that the Laurie Brothers Funeral Home was not on the historic registry, and it is. And it was put on in 1980, basically because of its architecture. And the other part of that story is, can a historic registry building be torn down, demolished? And yes, it can. And so I just wanted to set that straight. My big thing about this whole issue with the Laurie Brothers, it's an eyesore on Main Street. I would like to know what Casella's plan is on making it a more presentable place of business for a main street. Are they going to put shrubs up? Are they going to put a proper signage? Or are we just going to have to look at the funeral home and then all that industrial stuff in the parking lot forever? Because to me, that does not make for a good downtown impression. So I think I would like to have a conversation with the powers that be, with Casella, to know exactly what their business plan is for that site. Because they put cedar bushes out there in Benton to cover up the porta potties.
So that was when it was CMD. And
Yeah.
of course, CMD has sold out to Casella.
That's true.
So I can find out what was approved when they went to the planning board for their, I think they had to go to the planning board for that, but maybe they didn't, I can't remember. But I can double check. I don't know as if a fence is actually required of them, but we could certainly ask them to put one up.
Well, I went into our town ordinances, and the Main Street District, which they are a part of, says that the Main Street District is a variation of the commercial district with more flexible standards suited to the highly developed small lot and mixed-use character of the existing downtown blocks. It's very vague, and I don't feel that's being met. Infill and redevelopment to preserve the viability of the downtown is encouraged and promoted. New construction and any alteration of existing buildings or land use should be consistent with the objective of developing and maintaining the downtown as a central business area. To me, there's a fine line right now between commercial and industrial. And when I looked at the commercial part for the ordinances, it said the purpose of the commercial district is to provide the opportunity for small to medium-scale commercial and industrial uses to locate or expand in the community while limiting impact on adjacent residential areas of the town. This ordinance seeks to ensure that proposed uses are compatible with existing uses and the character of the town. I disagree that that's happening right now. And are protective of natural resources and visual quality. That's not happening right now. The commercial district is located so as to provide an area suited to such development due to site conditions such as soil slopes, etc., proximity to highway access and public water, sewer, and services. I think that we need to take a good look at what we want our downtown to look like. I'm glad we've got their business. I just think that right now we still have the idea, are they going to tear down the funeral home? Or are they going to put up something new? What is their plan? And right now, I know they're still working on groundwork. But I think it'd be nice for us to hear from them as to what, and the public needs to know too, I think, what's happening, because it's an eyesore right now.
So I just want you to keep in mind that whatever requirement you make of them, you'll also have to make of any other business that's on Main Street. So if you want them to put up shrubbery around their parking lot, are you going to tell Village Market and Belanger's they have to do the same thing?
Well, maybe we don't have to. Maybe they're going to do it on their own.
And maybe they are. But I'm just saying, what we have to do is we have to make sure that what we do
Yeah.
is consistent, and it's also within our existing regulations that we already have.
But I think we need to know what their intention is.
So
at
I haven't
this
had a
point.
conversation with them in some time, actually not since Mickey Wing got done working there. That was the last conversation I had. The last I knew, the intent is that the addition that was on the back of the building was going to be removed, but the building itself would stay. But also the last I knew, they hadn't even purchased the building yet. I don't believe it's even been bought, unless it's closed. But the last time I checked, which was probably about 2 weeks ago, they still don't even own it.
Still didn't, oh, okay. See, we need to know stuff like that.
But, okay.
I mean, I know it's wheels in progress and everything, but when you're looking at such a drastic change to an area that has been pretty much residential in that section.
It was vacant residential for a very long time.
It was, but we had houses there that filled the picture in. Now it's just, so I think we need to have
But, I
that
mean,
conversation.
It fits the zoning for medium-sized business. So, I mean, to us, what is medium-sized? But that means it's not a large warehouse or something, it's not, that size of a business going in there. But doesn't match, you start reading visual, and everything else doesn't come close to matching that. So,
No.
But I don't think it's complete yet either.
right.
Yeah.
So you
And
have-
I can't remember exactly what was approved, but we can certainly find that out for you.
Yeah.
Us also, too, we don't want to put too much burden on them, too. We might lose a business.
Well, so,
And that's a lot of revenue for us.
A lot.
but you also have to maintain standards. And so I think that's a fair point. And
But I
it's
don't
something we
believe
discuss.
that they are currently in violation of anything.
No,
Correct.
no, it's just an eyesore right
Well, so
now.
It says visual,
It's a visual thing,
right?
so,
So that's in the zone,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think would be
To
discussed.
interpretation.
And I think it would be hard pressed to talk about and this is a whole different subject issue, but, in other towns in the area, if it goes to the planning board, then it kicks to the town council or city council, and then it goes, you have an approval of that, then it goes back to the planning board.
We actually have a Board of Appeals.
Yeah, but so I'm just saying that we don't ever hear
Right.
that presentation, and we don't get a chance to have a say or any kind of at least input on a project as it might affect the town. And I know that's why we let people do their jobs, and that's why you have boards and you have committees, but that is kind of an interesting discussion part of it, because it's kind of out of our jurisdiction, out of our plans. If everything else is passed, we don't touch it, we don't see it.
Well, and that's why you, as the town council, approved the land use ordinance.
Right.
And it's the planning board's job to administer the land use ordinance along with the code enforcement officer.
Right.
Right, so that's how that hierarchy works. So if you've approved how standards are for the Main Street district in the land use ordinance, then that's what the planning board has to do.
And then there's
And that's what happens.
right, and there,
Yeah.
if you have a difference of opinion with their findings, there is no recourse.
No.
Right, so there,
The time to have that conversation is amend the land use ordinance.
right.
Yep. Okay, my second item on my list. I received an email this week from a resident concerning the Green Road dump being open only the first week of the month. And in the month, in the fall, people are doing a lot of yard work, and they could really benefit from a longer opportunity for them to use the Green Road dump. So I didn't know if that's something that we should be talking about, and she brought up some very good points, and I think we should talk about maybe extending it from, especially in November, go from the beginning of November, the first week, to the end of Thanksgiving week, so that people have more of an opportunity to clear out their brush and their leaves, that kind of thing. So
I'd like to get, maybe get Director Williams to weigh in.
We can get it on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Third item on the list. Would it be possible to get a text messaging notification system for the town of Fairfield? We've talked about it in the past as part of, just in passing, but if the school district can have it, why can't we have it? Is it, we're updating our webpage, our social media. To me, this would be a very good access for our citizens to be able to have a text message come over their phones if something's happening.
And we've already started investigating that. It is a platform that would need to live in our new website. Our current website will not support it.
And how close are we to that new website? Ray?
We are not close at all.
Not close
We're
at
at
all.
least a year and a half out.
Really?
Because the formal RFP for the new website hasn't even gone to any of the various different developers. We were getting closer to that, and then we had a shift in staffing again, and now but we're getting closer.
Okay.
But I have had several conversations with different companies, especially even just at convention. So there's a couple of different companies that provide this service. We've been looking at them. We've been doing webinars and what is a good platform for all of it. So folks, you can narrow it down even too. So like folks can opt in and say, I want to hear about the planning board, and I want to hear about the town council, or I want to hear about Parks and Rec issues and just the town council. Like, we're looking at all of that. So the IRIS program that the school has is it's not anything that we can have access to, but we do not currently have the platforms in order to be able to
Update the maps too, or the town maps, or
That we already have the town maps online.
not updated. Not updated. It's online, they're not updated.
But potentially this last year's splits aren't on there yet, but there should be.
Yep.
I don't, the brand new maps that we just got for the year are on there. Because we just uploaded those,
When?
like within the last month, I do believe, those
They're
individual things.
updated when I looked at all the
When
all
you
the
looked at all
town-owned
the town
properties.
stuff.
Yep.
And remember, tax maps are based upon what was in place as of April 1st
Okay.
of that year.
Because I
That's
checked
the,
a few weeks ago, and I see some different information on the tax map.
so if there's a error, if you think that there's an error there, please just let me know and we
Yep.
can look at it. Yep.
Okay, fourth item on my list. Free estimates by T.C. Hafford. I would really like us to ask them to come and take a look at the situation at the fire station. They give a free estimate. I think that is something we should explore and just go from that. We're waiting, 5 more years for us to watch to see if the building's going to change anywhere with the cracks. I feel that that's a waste of time. But if T.C. Hafford could come and just give us a free estimate, see if it's a possibility, I would feel like I'm doing more due diligence on that matter.
You already requested that an RFP be drafted for addressing the concerns at the fire department. Do you want to just make sure T.C. Hafford gets a copy of that?
That would be wonderful.
Okay,
I would
thank
be
you.
a happy camper then, Michelle. Thank you. Fifth item on my list. Winter's coming, and I'm thinking of the police station and winter frost. And will you be able to lock the doors once the frost sets in? Chief?
Find out.
Sometimes it's not even the frost, Stephanie.
I know it. I mean, but I'm really thinking, yes, you are.
please.
Yes.
Being asked.
Yeah, I think we're okay. You know, every day is different there. The heat affects the doors, the cold affects the doors, but the employees are paying better attention to them to make sure they're securing, and Public Works is pretty much on the spot when we have an issue with them. We did reach out to a couple of companies to replace the front doors. Nobody replied back, so we're kind of stuck with the doors that we have now. Worst case scenario, we have to deadbolt them, or I would say secure them so that we still have egress from those doors. And that has happened from time to time. But to date, we're doing okay. Frost, I don't think is going to bother it as much as we think it's going to bother it. It's more the, you know, the natural flow of the floor that causes the issues.
Well, I still think we're putting off the inevitable, and we need a new police station. I think that we are just treading water here. I would like to see us have a building committee set up for a new police station built on that site. For the time being, we could always get a double wide. At least it would be something that we know could be secured. And again, we need to have that conversation and not keep putting it off. I know the whole thing is about, you know, well, if we're going to do that, what about a public safety building? But right now, we've got a building that's needs to be taken care of within 5 years, at least. And if we don't start now, we're just putting it off and off and off. And I fear for you're finally at full staff. I'd hate for people to, knock on wood, you know, if we're going to do something and maintain our credibility, I think we should have at least a police station that's functional and is a place of safety for its employees. So, again, we need to, as a council, talk about it and do something rather than wait for Mother Nature to
Yes,
take
so,
its course and blow the shingles off the roof or something.
So I would say we have,
But
because we started the process.
Yeah, we already
that-
have a process that we're putting together for that RFP for a firm
But-
to look at the possibility of a public safety building.
Well,
That
But-
needs
but
to
there
go.
should be a Plan B.
But, so I like, and this is, I don't want to steal your thunder, and this is your time, but I do like the idea, like, what about a double wide? Something
Yeah.
like that we can do this safe, and they have that kind of, so there's things to think about, right? So those are options.
Because then we could resell it if we ever did get a
Yeah.
public safety building.
We've been looking for like a old classroom, actually, for the fire training facility for quite some time, and haven't managed to acquire one of those yet either, but,
Right.
yep, it's always an option.
Again, we need to have that conversation and, you know, do something about that situation. And it's not going to get any better. So anyways, I'm off my,
No, those are good points.
yeah, that's the end of my list.
It's
Good. Thanks.
Sounds like
Knock my list away.
No,
Sounds like
those
unfinished business agenda item.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, those are good.
Imagine
Yeah.
that.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Adam?
All right, I do have one. I was sent a concerning social media post that had been circulating a couple days ago that I've sent by 4 or 5 residents that I would like to have addressed. The post in question is by a candidate for council, Mr. Began. And I'd like to ask, or I'd like to read it first and then ask clarifying questions to our town clerk and town manager. He stated that imagine that a Fairfield resident on the election committee was busted harvesting ballots. Funny thing is he did it last election too and got away with it. That's a pretty damning post. That was since taken down by Mr. Began, but I'd like to ask if the town is aware of any such accusations. Specifically, somebody was, the keywords here are, somebody was busted for harvesting ballots, and there's a claim that they did it last election and got away with it. So, for public record, I'd really just like some clarification on that. I understand it's been deleted, but the damage has been done. It's been circulating with screenshots. I know you both are aware of it. And we'll see if the state gets called or what, but anything to comment on to the public?
So we were made aware of it. We actually had to look up what ballot harvesting was. And we don't have an election committee. We never have. We have, ballot clerks and, wardens and moderators and those sorts of things. I have no idea what anybody was alluding to. When we looked up ballot harvesting, it was likened to the third-party process that the state of Maine has that you're allowed to do. And Brittany can certainly elaborate on that as our town clerk, but basically that allows you as an individual to contact the town office, whether it be in writing, online, over the phone, and say that you want a third party to pick up your ballot for you. Once we have that information, we've confirmed you're a registered voter, that person would come in, show us their ID, we would give them that ballot for you, they in turn would take it to you so you could vote it, and that person would bring it back. They have to sign for it, they have to show identification that they are that person, all of those things. That process does allow you to have up to 5 ballots at a time, and we keep track of that. And it used to be very common with regard to nursing homes. See, we were talking about Lowry Brothers, and there I go again. Trust me, we don't let the dead vote. I know what people do. And that will be tomorrow's post.
It'll be on Facebook later.
It'll be all over the place tomorrow. Because there were folks in nursing homes who had the inability to actually come to the polls. It is sometimes done by folks who do, I've seen it done in many years past. It was like members of the Lions Club or the VFW would take ballots to members that they know were not able to come to the polls, whether they be in the hospital at that time or, what have you. It is not a common practice, especially since now with nursing homes, the clerks by law are required to go there to allow people to vote and to give them that opportunity. I'm not aware of anybody who has taken a third-party ballot. I'm not aware of anybody who even did last year. But I don't know what was meant by the post and still to this have no idea.
Yeah, I just asked because I know election integrity is crucial. We've got one of the biggest elections coming up, very important, and I wanted to clear the air on that.
And one of the things too is that everything that we do for a local election, county election, state election, federal election is dictated by Title 21A or Title 30A. We do not make those laws. We do not make those processes. They are done basically at the Secretary of State level, and we administer those processes for them. Everything that we do is documented right down to the number of ballots that we have that came in from the printer, to the number of ballots that we have the night we close the polls. Every single thing is done and accounted for and double and triple checked. So, you as a council may have noticed, the last several meetings that we have had delays in getting the council packet out. Delays in getting the council packet on the website, even though it's a new process, but even just posting the agenda. You didn't even receive my monthly report until Monday afternoon. The sheer volume of work that has to be done to administer an election is staggering. The number of times that someone touches an absentee ballot before it ever goes out the door. Not the ballot, but the application. So if you register online, we have to go in and check it online. You have to print that off. You have to verify that all of that information is correct. You get the envelopes ready. When the ballots came in, that gets stuffed. We put the postage on them. They get labeled. They get scanned. Every step of the process, they get scanned when they're mailed. They get scanned when they're returned. And that is documented within the computer. I had a woman who called today. She got her ballot. Her husband didn't. We know by going into the system, his ballot was mailed the same day hers was. It's in the post office hands. There's ways to deal with that, but we know exactly where that is at all times. And when it comes back to us, it gets scanned again that it was returned. And who returned it? If you pick up a ballot for somebody else, you're the one that returns it, and we verify that. All of those different things. So every single piece has a process. We've had over 450.
I think there's 478 total requests that we have gotten and fulfilled.
As of when we did the mailing. Today, it was standing room only in the hallway at lunchtime. So, because people were coming in on their lunch breaks, so they were waiting to vote in the conference room. So it is a process. You can walk in, you can request a ballot, you can walk in and you can do your ballot and your spouse's ballot. I mean, it is constant, and it's happening all over the state. Their rules are the same as our rules. All the rules are the same. But there are checks and balances all the way. And then when we're done at the end of the day, those rules, all of those counts get tallied up, and they're sent to the Secretary of State's office. And they look at them, and they make sure everything matches, that the number of ballots we received is the number of ballots that we have when it's all over. And if we don't, we have to know why. If you took out an absentee ballot, you didn't return it, we have to account for that. And that gets reported to the state. Every single thing gets reported. So if at any time any resident has any questions about the voting process and its security, we always encourage them to reach out to us or the Secretary of State's office, and somebody will be more than happy to explain to them how it's done and how secure it actually is.
Appreciate that. Thank you. So the only other council business thing I had was last meeting, I believe it was Carol Ann brought up the ramp at the Memorial Park. I noticed the stairs are still there with no ramp. Do we have any sort of update on that or timeline or the feasibility of it?
So the Public Works Director and I have discussed it. They're currently in the middle of putting up winter sand, because they're definitely going to make sure that the railing gets put up.
Okay.
Once they're completed that process. And we have to discuss how we would put in a ramp at that location. Quite frankly, it's never been requested before. We really hadn't thought about it. But we would need to figure out how it could be designed and get that in there. So I don't know as if it can be done the way the current asphalt layout is over there for the walkway, but we are discussing it and working on that. So.
Thanks.
Adam, all set?
All set.
Thank you. Peter?
I had a lot of things on my list, but Stephanie knocked it off for me, so I had the same stuff that she did. So I'm just updating Grange's got a lot of activities going on this week and next week. We have a fundraiser this Saturday. It's an annual craft fair from 9 to 2. On Wednesday, October 16th, it's our annual, we have an event every month, and this month is making homemade pie crust. That's from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And on Friday 18th is the senior circle from 11 o'clock. Wednesday, October 23rd, it was posted online, but it's a Master Android Phone Basic course from 2 to 3. To register for this course, call Sherry at 207-815-6015. And our annual, monthly suppers come up to October 26th from 4:30 to 6, and after that, at 6:30, E-Rock will be there doing his thing.
What is E-Rock?
EP Rock.
Oh, EP Rock?
Right, the Elvis impersonator.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the one who did the concert in the park.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Yep, same one.
The Grange is booking them,
Yep. Yeah, he was good. He was great at the
and
park.
that's it.
Very good, thank you. I think cold butter is best for pie crust, but that's what I was told. I don't know.
I guess you'll have to go and find out.
I will.
Do you make pies often, Matt?
I eat them.
You eat them?
You guys have a great list, so actually you don't need, there are a couple things that Adam brought up, actually a couple things Stephanie brought up, so I appreciate you bringing those forward, as well as Peter. So I have nothing else to bring to the table, so I want to thank everyone for being in attendance and contributing to a very productive meeting. So the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, to be held as a hybrid meeting in council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 p.m. Recess at this time.
Sign. Second.
Very good. Thank you.